Welcome back to the course Millennials and the Millennium. Now, before we dive into the four different views of the Millennium, let's take a few minutes and define some terms so we can talk about the topic with some intelligence. Now, when we talk about the end times, a term that is most often used is eschatology. And this term is actually a combination of two Greek words, eschatos, which means last, and logos, which means the word. And together these two terms mean the doctrine of last things. So this term is often used to refer to the study of the end times. Now the next term is ante-Nicene Chiliasm. And I want you to notice the anti at the very beginning, that's A-N-T-E, that's not a misspelling, it's not anti, it's anti. And that little prefix there, anti, means before. Okay, this particular term, if you do a search on Google or YouTube, you will find some very interesting commentary on this particular word. Basically, the term refers to the period of time before the Nicene Council. Now, the Nicene Council occurred in 325 AD. Again, ante meaning before. Now, Chiliasm is a Latin word, and it simply means 1000. So basically, the term ante-Nicene Chiliasm refers to the belief about Christ's expected return to earth for a 1000-year reign that was held, the belief that was held in the first 300 years of Christianity, i.e., before the Nicene Council. Now, some would say this is basically premillennialism, but you have to be very careful about saying that. To some degree, that's true because there are several church fathers, early church fathers, that were premillennialists. However, there's also varying opinions on this particular topic. Next, let's talk about pre, post, and amillennialism. Now, we'll get into more detail later, but I'm just going to talk about the bare basic meaning of each of these. Now, premillennialism, that's the belief that Jesus will return to earth before the millennium, hence the pre, meaning before. So Jesus will return before the millennium. Postmillennialism, as you might guess, is the belief that Jesus will return after. Post meaning after. So he returned to earth after the millennium. And then amillennialism is a little bit different. It basically is the belief that there is no millennium or that the millennial time period is not literal. It's not a literal 1000 years. And now we come to probably everyone's favorite subject, and that is the rapture. Very popular topic in end times theology, and very important, I might add. Now, the word rapture is not in the English translation of the Bible. The word actually comes from the Latin Vulgate, and it's translating the verb caught up, and it's found in 1 Thessalonians 4:17. Now, the rapture means that believers will be caught up from earth to heaven at Christ's second coming. And this would refer to those that are living and on the earth at Christ's return. And they join those who have already died in Christ. Now, there's three different views with the rapture: the pre, the mid, and the post-tribulation. Now, the first one is the pre-tribulational view, and this means that believers are caught up 7 years before Christ's return. And that 7 years, that's the tribulation. So you have the word pre-tribulation, meaning before the tribulation, or at the very beginning of the tribulation, believers are caught up or raptured. Then there's the mid-tribulational view, and this means that believers experience part of the tribulation or half of it, and then they're caught up to be with Christ at the midpoint, which would be at the 3.5-year mark. So they go through part of the tribulation, but not all of it. Then you have the post-tribulational view, and this is the rapture occurs at the same time as Christ's visible return, his second coming, and this is, of course, after, post being after the tribulation. And those are the three views of the rapture. Now, before we dive into the millennial views, we need to understand the schools of interpretation for the book of Revelation. In our next video, that's what we're going to talk about, the 4 schools of interpretation. This provides the lens in which we see Revelation and the millennium. Now, for next time, what I want you to do is research one of those schools, and it's called preterism. Preterism, preterism. And not only do I want you to research what it is, I want you to tell me or figure out if it's heretical. Is preterism heretical? And if you don't know what heresy or heretical means, just do a simple search. It's a pretty common term. But what is preterism, and is that view heretical? Until next time, remember, keep the millennium in view.